begin the FFS.
The Rumblefish.
Hi guys, Saku Wants to Fight here. Just a quick one today. This is the Rumblefish. It is a 2D fighting game developed by Dimps and published by Sammy in 2004 for the Atomiswave arcade before receiving a port for the PlayStation 2 published by Sega in 2005. Also receiving a port known as the Rumblefish Plus for most modern system hardware since 2022. Is the game going to be any good? Let's find out. So anyway, as I mentioned before, it is a 2D fighter. Nothing really new here on this channel, but this one's actually kind of unique because of the animation presented in the characters. They all have this sort of janky kind of life to them, but that jankiness does add up to something to being more intricate, especially in the gameplay. Now when I say this, I'm referring to the controllers. The controls are pretty simple, like S and K. You have 4 buttons, being light punch, strong punch, light kick and strong kick, with an additional dodge button, which I personally kind of found rather redundant if I have to be completely honest with you. But it does add to the intricacies of this game. So anyway, the game. The game itself is pretty interesting to say in the least. It has 9 characters in a roster, with an additional unlockable 10th being a boss character who is quite a bit of a bastard to fight in the end stage. In the arcade run there are 7 stages where you wade through 7 characters in order to progress through the tournament, and whilst beating all 7 you get a result and you finally face a guy called Greed, who happens to be the most hardest boss I've ever played against, and I'm genuinely being serious. With that also being said, there's also something here called Arts. Arts is basically your super move depending on which you want to go through, because it can go 1 or 3 ways. If your offensive gauge is full, you can launch an all-powerful attack, being the offensive art attack. And what this does, it ensures that you do multiple and massive damage towards your opponent. There is defensive gauge, which is more or less a side that uses the defensive art, where you will require to activate it to do some attacks. However, with that also being said, you can only do it in unique moments, whether you're guarding or attacking. And then you have critical arts, where if both your bars are full up, you can perform a critical art to do damage and hopefully get a killing blow on your opponent. With that also being said, there's also 2 types of attacks: advanced attacks and jolt attack. Jolt attack, if you press both light punch and light kick, it temporarily stuns the enemy for such a short time, which allows you to slow in a bunch of combos at will. Whereas advanced attack is activated once you pressed both the heavy punch and heavy kick, and basically you can string these into a long combo. Graphically, it's actually impressive, especially with the animation. The backstage is pretty impressive, as well as the character model. And if you haven't guessed by now, I'm playing Kaya. And Kaya, for sprites, so to say, is rather attractive for me to say. And I'm actually kind of happy that this sort of artwork is in this game, especially for the sprites. And just because I favour Kaya doesn't mean all the other character designs are terrible by design. In fact, they are rather interesting looking. For the combat itself, I would say it's actually pretty intricate, because it's actually kind of different to a lot of 2D fighters that I feel is out there. Now, this is no Third Strike, this is no King of Fighters 2002. It's none of those. It's its own thing, and frankly, rightfully so, because this is probably one of the better obscure 2D fighters that I've ever played. Although, to be fair, number 2 is better. Now, I will have to be honest, if there's one thing that sort of pissed me off about this game, it's kind of mostly characters that, like, in the arcade run, that are just massively bullshit. And to name a few, Orville and Typhon. And the reason why I selected these is because Typhon practically flies all over the place, not giving you much time to think of when to attack or when to strike. He's literally flying all over, throwing projectiles, and then you have Orville, who will just basically spam revolver, hammer, or some shit like that, throw you in the air and do some grappling moves. And trust me, he is a bastard to fight against in the arcade, as well as being a bastard to face against when another player is controlling him. Anyway, that would be all. Remember to like, comment and subscribe if you so choose to. I've been Saku. Fuck off.